Imagine a beach so famous that it attracts millions of visitors every single year. Now, imagine that in the waters of that same beach, sharks appear so frequently that specialized teams monitor the area daily using drones, helicopters, and observation towers.
Sounds like something straight out of a movie?
But it isn't. There is a place in Australia where encounters between humans and sharks are simply part of everyday life. A beach surrounded by crystal clear waters, perfect waves, and breathtaking scenery. A true coastal paradise that also happens to be home to predators that have patrolled these waters for millions of years. What's even more surprising is that despite knowing the risks, thousands of people still enter the ocean every day. In today's video, we're going to explore one of the most famous, dangerous, and fascinating beaches on the planet. A place where beauty and danger exist side by side. But before we continue, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to World in Perspective. Here, you'll discover the most incredible, mysterious, and breathtaking beaches from around the world. So get ready, because we're about to travel to the coast of Australia and uncover the secrets of a beach that seems to defy logic. And its name is Bondi Beach.
Number 1. Location. Located on Australia's eastern coastline, Bondi Beach sits just a few miles from downtown Sydney, one of the country's most famous and vibrant cities. At first glance, it looks like the definition of a tropical paradise. Golden sand, crystal clear blue water, and breathtaking scenery that seems straight out of a travel magazine. But spend a few moments looking a little closer, and you'll quickly realize there's something very different about this place. Bondi Beach is far more than just another tourist destination. For many Australians, it is a national icon, a place deeply connected to the country's culture and identity. Its reputation has spread across the globe, turning this stretch of coastline into one of the most recognizable and visited beaches on Earth. Every year, millions of travelers come here searching for Australia's legendary waves, beautiful weather, and the chance to experience one of the world's most famous beaches. It's the kind of place that appears in movies, television shows, documentaries, and on countless travel bucket lists. However, there's one detail that most visitors never think about before stepping into the water. The same crystal clear ocean that attracts swimmers, surfers, and families is also part of the natural migration route of several marine species. Among them are some of the Pacific Ocean's most well-known sharks, animals that have been patrolling these waters long before the first tourists ever arrived. And this unusual relationship between people and powerful ocean predators is only the beginning of what makes Bondi Beach one of the most fascinating, mysterious, and unforgettable destinations in all of Australia.
Number 2. The sharks. When people talk about Bondi Beach, there is one subject that almost always finds its way into the conversation: sharks. It might sound like an exaggeration, but Bondi's reputation didn't appear out of nowhere. While the beach is considered safe most of the time, the waters along Australia's coastline are part of one of the richest marine ecosystems on Earth. As a result, countless species move through these waters every year, including some of the ocean's most famous predators. Among the species most commonly spotted near the region are great white sharks, bull sharks, and tiger sharks. Some of these animals can grow several meters long and sit at the very top of the marine food chain. They are powerful predators that have survived and evolved for millions of years. Fortunately, most of them have little interest in humans and prefer to remain in deeper waters far from the shoreline. But that doesn't mean encounters never happen. From time to time, surveillance drones capture remarkable footage of these giants swimming surprisingly close to the beach. In certain situations, lifeguards temporarily clear the water while they monitor the shark's movements and wait for it to move back offshore. What's truly surprising is that despite their terrifying reputation, serious shark incidents are incredibly rare when compared to the millions of people who swim here every year. Even so, a single sighting is often enough to change the atmosphere instantly. What begins as an ordinary beach day can quickly become headline news across Australia. And perhaps that unusual connection between humans and one of the ocean's most feared predators is exactly what makes Bondi Beach so fascinating. Few places on Earth allow visitors to experience the raw power of the natural world while remaining just minutes away from a major city. Number 3. Watching from the sky. Picture this. You're out enjoying the ocean, and the lifeguard up in the tower isn't the only one keeping an eye on you. At Bondi Beach, keeping swimmers safe goes way beyond the sand. If the mere thought of sharks already sends chills down your spine, what actually happens above this beach looks like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. Here, protecting everyone in the water isn't just a job for the people standing on the ground. The sky is part of the operation too. Every single day, especially during the busiest seasons, drones fitted with high-resolution cameras fly over Bondi, watching every inch of the water below. From up there, these machines can spot things that would be almost impossible to see from the beach. Schools of fish moving together, dangerous rip currents, and even the silhouettes of large marine animals gliding just beneath the surface. But drones are only part of the picture. When the situation calls for it, specialized helicopters take to the air, patrolling long stretches of the Australian coastline in just minutes. The footage they capture gets analyzed in real time, which means lifeguards get an instant heads up the moment a shark is spotted anywhere near the swimming areas. And once that alert goes out, things move fast. Sirens blare, warning flags go up, and swimmers are told to clear the water right away until everything's confirmed safe again. In just a few minutes, a packed beach can empty out completely, with everyone standing on the sand, eyes glued to the ocean, waiting for the next update. This system has turned Bondi Beach into one of the most closely watched beaches on the planet. Of course, no technology can wipe out every risk completely, but it dramatically cuts down the chances of something going wrong, letting millions of people enjoy the ocean with a lot more peace of mind. Even so, with all this cutting-edge tech keeping watch over every inch of the ocean, there's still one force of nature that keeps outsmarting even the experts, and it can be just as dangerous as any shark.
Number 4. The famous lifeguards of Bondi Beach. If there's one group of people who became just as famous as the beach itself, it's the lifeguards of Bondi Beach. Think about it. Millions of people wade into that ocean every single year, and behind that peaceful scene is a team doing way more than just watching the water and rushing in when something goes wrong. They're literally the line between a perfect beach day and a tragedy. Long before the sand fills up with people, the teams are already out there, positioned and alert. With years of training behind them, these professionals keep a constant eye on the ocean, picking up on changes in the waves, the currents, and even the way swimmers are behaving in the water. One small detail that most people wouldn't even notice can be exactly what sets off an alert. This work matters even more because Bondi draws visitors from all over the world. Plenty of tourists have never set foot in the Pacific Ocean before and have no clue about the dangers hiding beneath that calm surface. Strong currents, sudden shifts in sea conditions, and even marine animals showing up all demand constant attention, with no room to look away. Over time, these lifeguards ended up turning into genuine international celebrities. TV shows and documentaries followed these teams for years, capturing jaw-dropping rescues, tense situations, and the daily challenges they face just to keep thousands of people safe. But the reality is far from the glamour you see on camera. On busy days, lifeguards handle dozens of incidents, ranging from minor scrapes to complicated rescues out in open water. Often, they have to make split-second decisions, knowing that single moment could be the difference between life and death for someone one week. Thanks to the dedication of these teams, Bondi Beach has become a world-renowned example of coastal safety. But even with all that preparation, there's still an invisible enemy responsible for a huge share of the rescues carried out on the beach: powerful ocean currents.
Number 5. Dangerous waves and hidden currents. At first glance, the ocean at Bondi Beach looks like the perfect invitation for a swim. Blue water, waves sparkling under the Australian sun, and that huge stretch of white sand, everything about it seems to scream, "Come on in, it's safe." But hiding behind that postcard-perfect view is a danger you can't actually see, one that puts thousands of people at risk every single year. That danger has a name: rip currents, as Australians call them. Think of them as hidden rivers inside the ocean itself, fast-moving channels of water that pull everything from the shore out toward the open sea. The tricky part is that for anyone without experience, spotting one of these currents is almost impossible. Plenty of tourists wade into the water thinking they're in a calm, safe spot, only to realize within seconds that they're being dragged farther and farther from the shore.
The natural instinct in that moment is to swim straight back to the beach, but that reaction can actually make things worse. Fighting against the pull of the current, people tire out fast, and that's exactly when the risk of drowning shoots up. Waves add another layer of difficulty. Depending on the weather and the tides, they can swell to impressive heights, the kind that draws experienced surfers in from all over the world. But what's pure adrenaline for a pro surfer can turn into a real nightmare for someone who doesn't understand how the ocean behaves. That's exactly why lifeguards push so hard for swimmers to stay between the well-known red and yellow flags set up along the beach. Those stretches are carefully chosen and monitored, precisely because they offer safer conditions for anyone who just wants to relax in the water. Even so, hundreds of rescues happen every year at Bondi Beach, and the most surprising part is that many of the people who needed saving never imagined an invisible current could end up being more dangerous than the sharks themselves. But currents aren't the only scary chapter in this beach's story. Over the years, several real events have helped build Bondi Beach's reputation as one of the most fascinating and unpredictable places in all of Australia.
Number 6. Attacks that made history at the beach. When it comes to Bondi Beach, there's one question that almost always pops into visitors' minds. Have there actually been shark attacks here? And yes, the answer is there have. Sure, these cases are extremely rare when you consider the millions of swimmers who pass through that beach every year, but a handful of specific incidents ended up making history and helped give Bondi that slightly mysterious reputation it still carries today. Over the past few decades, several shark sightings have been recorded just off Sydney's coastline. On some occasions, the beach had to be shut down on the spot after monitoring systems confirmed large sharks were swimming nearby. Moments like these draw huge media attention, and within hours turn into nationwide news. But what really stands out is that actual attacks are far rarer than most people assume. Movies and TV shows have built up this image of constant danger lurking just beneath the surface, when in reality, these dangerous encounters are the exception, not the rule. Still, all it takes is a single incident to reignite that fear and remind everyone of one simple thing. Anyone stepping into that water is entering territory that belongs to another creature. There are some pretty striking accounts of surfers who spotted massive shadows gliding right beneath their boards. Others describe tense moments when rescue teams had to pull dozens of people out of the water after spotting a predator getting close. These situations usually last just a few minutes, but they stick in the memory of everyone involved for a lifetime. Interestingly, none of this scared visitors away. Quite the opposite, actually. Bondi Beach's fame just kept growing, turning it into one of the most well-known tourist destinations on the planet. For a lot of tourists, there's even a certain thrill in knowing they're swimming in water shared with some of the oldest, most respected creatures the ocean has ever known. But Bondi Beach isn't just remembered for its sharks and the challenges of the sea. There's also a building right on the edge of the ocean that became just as famous as the beach itself, offering a unique experience for anyone who wants to enjoy the place with a lot more peace of mind. Number 7. The natural pool by the sea. After hearing about sharks, dangerous currents, and massive waves, it's only natural to think the only way to enjoy Bondi Beach is by staying far away from the water. But there's one spot here that completely changes the game, and it's become one of the most famous attractions in all of Australia. At the southern end of the beach sits the iconic Bondi Icebergs Pool, a massive saltwater pool built literally right up against the ocean. The setting looks like something straight out of a movie. On one side, the choppy waters of the Pacific. On the other, a pool perfectly carved into the coastal rocks, creating one of the most photographed views in the entire country. Here's the wild part. On rough sea days, waves actually crash right over the edges of the pool. At certain moments, huge surges of water flood the space, creating a one-of-a-kind feeling for anyone swimming inside. It's almost like being right in the ocean itself, just with way more control and safety. This place has been around for decades and has become a true symbol of Bondi Beach. Locals and tourists hang out at the pool all year round, even during the coldest months, when groups of swimmers brave the chilly water to keep a tradition alive that's been passed down through generations. Beyond the jaw-dropping view, the pool offers something rare, a chance to feel the raw power of the Pacific Ocean up close without having to deal directly with the currents and dangers of open water.
That's exactly why it pulls in everyone from seasoned athletes to families who just want to relax while watching the waves crash all around them. Now, I want to hear your take on this. If you were standing at Bondi Beach right now, would you have the nerve to jump into that pool surrounded by the ocean, watching giant waves crash right next to you? Or would you rather just admire it all from the sand? Drop your answer in the comments. Whatever you choose, one thing's for sure. Very few places on Earth manage to pack this much natural beauty into a single view. And the most impressive part is that Bondi Beach still has even more attractions that help explain why it became one of the most famous beaches on the planet.
Number 8. The Surf Championship. If there's one activity that helped turn Bondi Beach into a worldwide legend, it's surfing. Long before social media and drones were capturing those jaw-dropping shots of the Australian coastline, the waves at this beach were already pulling in adventurers willing to take on the raw power of the Pacific Ocean.
The natural conditions in this area created the perfect setup for the sport. Depending on the time of year, the waves can get pretty massive, throwing challenges at everyone from total beginners to seasoned surfers. It's no surprise Bondi Beach became one of the biggest symbols of surf culture in all of Australia. Over the decades, plenty of competitions and surf events have taken place there. These events draw athletes from all over the world, plus thousands of spectators who gather on the sand to watch the action up close. During the biggest events, the beach completely transforms. Temporary grandstands pop up out of nowhere, live broadcasts kick in, and the crowd goes wild with every move pulled off on the waves. But what's really impressive goes beyond the pros. Plenty of locals start surfing as kids and end up building a connection with the ocean that's almost impossible to break. For them, the ocean isn't just a place to hang out, it's a core part of who they are as Australians. This tradition runs so deep that several surf schools offer lessons for tourists wanting to catch their very first wave. Every single day, you can spot beginners trying to find their balance on a board while instructors walk them through basic techniques and safety rules.
Of course, the sport demands respect too. The same waves that bring fun and adrenaline can turn into a serious problem when sea conditions shift fast. That's why proper training and paying close attention to lifeguard instructions are absolutely essential, no exceptions. Today, Bondi Beach remains one of the most sought-after destinations for surfers from around the globe. But there's something even more fascinating than the waves. Beneath the surface of these waters lives an entire world of surprising creatures that most tourists never even get to see.
Number 9. Marine life beyond the sharks. When people think about Bondi Beach, the first image that usually pops into their head is sharks patrolling the waters off the Australian coast. But the truth is, those famous predators are just a tiny slice of the incredible marine life that actually calls this place home. Beneath the surface of the ocean lies a whole ecosystem buzzing with life and surprises. The waters near the beach are home to an enormous variety of colorful fish, rays, starfish, octopuses, and countless other species, all living together in an environment packed with nutrients and constantly refreshed by Pacific currents. At certain times of the year, anyone paying attention might even catch dolphins swimming close to shore. These animals tend to show up out of nowhere, trailing boats or just playing around in the waves. Spotting one is considered a special moment for tourists and locals alike. But maybe the most stunning encounters of all involve the giant humpback whales. During their long yearly migrations, some pass right by the Sydney coastline, putting on a show that's hard to forget. From elevated spots near the beach, plenty of people get to watch these massive mammals breaching the surface or shooting spouts of water visible from a long way off. The rock formations around Bondi Beach also play an important role in this ecosystem. They act as shelter for several smaller species and help create areas where marine biodiversity can really thrive. It's exactly this combination of factors that makes the region so special for researchers, divers, and nature lovers alike. What's most surprising is that a lot of tourists spend the entire day at the beach without ever realizing just how much life exists right beneath those waves. While some are just admiring the view above the surface, an entire world keeps quietly running underwater. And despite all this natural richness, there are still details about Bondi Beach that most visitors never find out. Some of these facts are so surprising they're hard to believe, even for people who already know this beach's international fame. Number 10. Australia's most beautiful coastal walk. If you think Bondi Beach is already impressive from the water's edge, just wait until you discover the experience that reveals all that beauty from an angle most people simply never get to see.
There's a path that starts right there on Bondi's famous sand and follows the ocean all the way to Coogee Beach. And anyone who has walked it once will tell you they couldn't stop talking about it for days. It's no exaggeration to say that many travelers consider this the single most beautiful coastal walk in all of Australia. The path stretches for several kilometers, hugging the natural contours of the coastline, almost as if it were designed specifically to show off the very best of what the Australian coast has to offer. Along the way, you'll pass cliffs that look like they're falling straight into the sea, hidden coves that most people don't even know exist, beaches that never make it into the travel guides, and lookout points where the view of the Pacific Ocean genuinely takes your breath away. Around every corner, the scenery shifts, and the urge to stop and take a photo hits you every couple of minutes. What surprises a lot of people is that this walk requires absolutely no special preparation. You don't need to be an athlete, you don't need hiking experience, and you don't need to worry about anything technically challenging. Thousands of people do this walk every single year at their own pace, some strolling slowly, some stopping constantly, just to soak in the scenery, breathe in the salty ocean air, and feel up close the raw power of the waves crashing against the rocky coastline.
And the experience goes well beyond the natural scenery. Along the route, there are grassy areas perfect for sitting down and just taking it all in, open-air sculptures that appear unexpectedly along the path, and rest spots that feel tailor-made for anyone who wants to slow down and be present. Then, during certain times of year, those who keep their eyes on the horizon might get an even bigger surprise. Whales passing through on their migration, visible right from the trail, turning what was already a great walk into something most people carry with them for the rest of their lives. Another thing that catches first-timers off guard is just how quickly the landscape transforms around you. Within minutes, you go from an urban stretch full of buildings and activity to a section that feels completely untouched, like the city just disappeared. That contrast between the wild and the civilized, between raw nature and modern infrastructure, is exactly what makes this stretch of coastline so admired by visitors coming from every corner of the world. For many travelers, this walk ends up being even more memorable than the beach itself. And honestly, that makes a lot of sense, because it offers something no photograph can fully capture: the real feeling of standing before the full scale and grandeur of Sydney's coastline, understanding with your own eyes why Bondi Beach stopped being just a beach and became a national symbol of Australia. But no matter how famous it is, no matter how many millions of visitors it draws each year, there are still stories and facts about this place that most people have never heard, and some of them go a long way toward explaining why Bondi Beach has never stopped fascinating generation after generation for well over a century. Number 11. Facts most tourists never find out. Millions of people visit Bondi Beach every single year. They take photos on the golden sand, stand and watch surfers battle the waves, walk along the waterfront soaking in the view. They do all of that and then leave without ever knowing there's an entire layer of stories, details, and facts hidden just beneath the surface of what the eye can see. The beach's international fame is massive, but what most visitors never realize is that behind all that fame, there's a whole side of this place that most people never get to discover. One of those facts starts with the beach's own name. Bondi isn't a made-up word or a name chosen by European settlers. It comes from an indigenous Australian language, and the most widely held belief is that the word is connected to the sound of waves crashing against the rocky coastline. Think about that for a second. Long before any tourist, any hotel, or any postcard ever existed, indigenous people had already given this place a name that captured exactly what it was: the sound of the sea. That story was here long before Sydney was even a city. Something else that tends to surprise people is that Bondi Beach wasn't always famous. For much of the 1800s, the area was considered isolated and difficult to reach, the kind of place most people simply didn't go. It was only with Sydney's urban development and the expansion of public transportation that the beach began drawing growing numbers of visitors, slowly turning into one of the most recognizable landmarks in all of Australia. The fame that feels so natural today was built up over decades, one visitor at a time.
There's something else most people don't notice. Bondi Beach shows up constantly in productions we watch without ever registering where it is. Films, TV series, international advertising campaigns, the combination of deep blue ocean, pale sand, and an urban backdrop in the distance makes this one of the most photographed and filmed locations in the entire Southern Hemisphere. Sometimes it's right there on the screen and nobody even catches it. And the beach isn't just a beach. Throughout the year, the area hosts a range of cultural events that completely change the feel of the place. Open-air art exhibitions, sports festivals, cultural performances, all of it happens right there along the waterfront, creating an atmosphere that goes far beyond typical beach tourism. At certain times of year, the shoreline becomes a massive shared space where locals and visitors mix in a way that very few beaches anywhere in the world can actually pull off. But maybe the most surprising fact of all is this one. Even though Bondi Beach is one of the most famous beaches on the entire planet, it has never lost its connection to the people who live right next door. For a huge portion of Australians, it isn't a tourist attraction. It's part of the national identity. It's the kind of place that comes up when someone tries to explain what Australia actually is to someone who's never been there. And after everything, the stories, the hidden dangers, the natural beauty, the facts that slip right past most visitors, we've arrived at the reason millions of people keep coming back to this place year after year, even knowing everything that hides beneath those waters.
Number 12. Why millions visit Bondi Beach, even knowing the risks. After everything you've learned throughout this video, the sharks that patrol the area, the rip currents that can drag swimmers out into open water in a matter of seconds, the raw power of the Pacific Ocean waves, and the countless rescues that happen there every single year, one question is impossible to avoid. Why, knowing all of that, do millions of people still choose Bondi Beach? The answer lies in something that's genuinely hard to put into words, but that anyone who's ever been there understands the moment they arrive. Bondi Beach isn't just a pretty beach. It's a combination of things that very few places on the entire planet can offer at the same time. Adventure, nature, sport, history, and culture, all packed into a single setting. It's one of those places where you show up and immediately feel like you're standing in front of something real, something wild, and yet everything around you is perfectly woven into modern life, with restaurants, cafes, and people just living their day-to-day right beside you. For a lot of people, what Bondi offers goes beyond the scenery. There's a feeling of freedom there that's hard to find anywhere else in the world. You walk along the sand and watch surfers taking on waves that would intimidate almost anyone. You look out at the ocean and it stretches endlessly to the horizon. You breathe in the salt air and feel that energy that the Australian coast carries. Vibrant, intense, alive. That atmosphere is what makes so many people fall in love with the place on their very first visit, and it's what keeps bringing those same people back again and again. Something else that can't be overlooked is the safety infrastructure. Over the years, Bondi has developed a system of protection that is genuinely recognized around the world. Australian lifeguards are famous for a reason. They're trained to operate in extreme conditions, and they're there all the time. Add to that the drone monitoring systems, the constant public awareness campaigns, and the clear signage marking dangerous zones, and you start to understand that even in a place with very real dangers, there's a serious, well-functioning system looking out for everyone in the water. The risks are real, there's no denying that, but they're managed by professionals who take that responsibility very seriously.
And there's one more layer that makes Bondi Beach what it is. Over time, it stopped being just a tourist destination and became a symbol of Australia, of the Australian way of life, of a certain idea of freedom and connection with nature that the country projects to the rest of the world. Bondi's image shows up in postcards, films, documentaries, tourism campaigns. Visiting this place feels almost like reaching out and physically touching one of the most powerful representations of what Australia actually is, not just as a country, but as a way of living. When you step back and look at the full picture, Bondi Beach proves something we tend to forget. The most fascinating places on the planet are rarely the safest or the most predictable. More often than not, it's exactly the danger, the mystery, and the raw force of nature that makes an experience truly unforgettable. We don't remember the places where everything was easy and under control. We remember the places that made our hearts race.
So what about you? If you were standing right there on Bondi's golden sand, ocean in front of you, would you have the guts to get in the water knowing that sharks have been spotted in that very area? Or would you rather take in the whole spectacular scene from the safety of the shoreline?
Drop it in the comments, because I genuinely want to know what you do. If you enjoyed this journey to one of the most famous and surprising beaches on the planet, leave a like. It genuinely helps the channel grow. And if you're not subscribed yet, hit that button now, because every week we bring you incredible stories about mysterious beaches, hidden paradises, and fascinating places from every corner of the world. Thank you so much for sticking around until the end. See you in the next one.